Happy Islamophobia Awareness Month, everybody. Last night, Arab men hunted Jews on the streets of Amsterdam, near the house where Anne Frank lived before she was casted off by the Nazis. Well done, Europe. Thanks for the progressive diversity. Now, I make no apologies now for showing you some distressing footage, but it is a warning, though. Some of what's about to come on your screens now is bad, it's awful. It will no doubt disturb some of you. But this is from last night's pogrom, as Israeli football supporters were hunted, beaten and abused by men who appeared to be of Middle Eastern and North African descent. And here's another one. And here's someone appearing to run a bloke over with his car. And here they are demanding to see a man's passport, making him say free Palestine as well. Now, if he'd been Israeli, I think we all know what they might have done to him.
But what time? Louder! I want it louder now! Free Palestine! Say it! Where are you from? Where are you from? Say it! Привет, спасибо.
How did our state broadcaster describe this? Anyone? Clashes. Clashes. That was a pogrom. They even included a quote that seemed desperate to blame it on the Jews. The attacks were, quote, completely provoked, apparently. What can possibly provoke that organised, systematic, attempted lynching of Jews at random? What they're trying to say is that because the football fans from Tel Aviv there were chanting some pretty fruity things and ripped down a Palestine flag, as I understand it, that now justifies a systematic lynching operation of people, does it? No. No, it doesn't. And there are reports that it was seriously well organised. Apparently, reportedly, local taxi drivers were using a messaging app to tell the thugs where Jews were. And there are reports that police officers in the Netherlands in the past have refused to guard Jewish sites because they have a, quote, moral dilemma over the conflict in Gaza. Next week, apparently, Israel play France in Paris. Well, the French authorities are refusing to call the game off. Do we think that there might be trouble there? Possibly. Will we be treated to more of the absolute joys of multiculturalism, do we think? Now, I know I've shown you this already tonight, but here it is again. Armed police protecting you at a Christmas market in Manchester. They're protecting us from Islamists, aren't they? Let's have it right. Last night in Amsterdam, a pack of rabid pro-Palestine dogs went on a Jew hunt. More than 100 people were injured. The Israeli government sent planes to come and pick up its citizens. There have been roughly 62 arrests. This is why Jews need their own state, isn't it? This is why they always need somewhere to go. Because now our liberal elites in Europe have allowed Islamist mobs to come and live in our cities. Here's a bit more of your integration. We have to seriously consider whether the only answer is mass deportations. Let's get thoughts from my panel this evening. Communications Manager at the Institute of Economic Affairs. We've got Reem Ibrahim. We've also got political commentator Alex Armstrong and the broadcaster and journalist JJ Anasobi. Alex, I'll start with you. I mean, what is the answer to this? Is it mass deportations? If anyone who was involved in that, or anyone or anything like it, who has got a dual nationality?
Yeah, there's a lot of questions that need to be asked, and this we've been unpicking this story in the green room because there's a lot to it, and I think I'm interested to hear what Reem and JJ have to say about this as well. First of all, what the most important thing I can say is that there is nothing that anyone can do to provoke you into violence. Violence is never acceptable in any way, shape or form, particularly in this matter where the stakes are so high when you've got Jewish people there and you've got a lot of pro-Palestine people. Whatever you're doing, you should never antagonise that, first of all. And I know there were some Israelis there antagonising the crowd, so we've got to call that out for what it is. Don't do that, first of all, if you don't want to incite violence. But there is never an excuse for this, particularly when innocent people are clearly getting dragged into it. When I saw that footage of that man being run over, I just aghast because that was shocking. That is a calculated attack by somebody. This should never be allowed on the streets. What I want to know is how have we got to a point where the melting pot is really this bad? It's really severe now. Race relations and ethnic relations and religious relations are at an all-time low across the West.
That's not integration, is it?
It's not integration. I will say, Patrick, I think that it's really important that we cover all sides of the story, and I would like to first of all say absolutely nothing will ever sort of give any kind of support or justice for what has happened. Those particular people that have been attacked, my heart goes out to them and their families. I mean, people effectively being injured, some of them quite severe injuries, actually. What I will say, though, is that there were these attacks that happened before everything that's sort of been quite prolific on the mainstream media. We've seen that on Wednesday, Maccabi fans did attack taxi drivers, they attacked taxi cars, they burnt Palestinian flags. Now, again, that doesn't excuse what's happened on Thursday and Friday. However, we've got to put this into context. This is, again, kind of the hooliganism that we often do see with some British hooligans.
What we do see, Reem, all over Europe is Arab men hunting Jews.
We see it often. We also see within context, Patrick, many of those particular people instigating that kind of violence. So we have to put it into context. I'm completely with you. This kind of violence is absolutely abhorrent and never excusable. However, we have to put it into context. I'm sorry, but if you are burning the British flag in front of your face, I think it would be much, much more significant and much more effective.
Would you go around demanding to know what passport somebody had and then kicking the living daylights out of them? Because to me, that's like a rabid.
No, of course not. But we saw during the Euros this year, Patrick, was it 1,600 British football hooligans were not allowed to travel to see the Euros in Germany? Look, we've got to put it into context. We know that violence happens during football games.
This is not just a football thing, right? All across Europe right now, Jews are terrified, and it's because of a load of Middle Eastern and North African men who go around attacking them. Well, that's what that is.
But this example here is talking about in context. There'll be football fans who are regular to football. They will say, going abroad, this is what happens. The reason that in this case they were targeting Jewish people, football fans, is because the team who had been playing in Amsterdam were from Israel. If it had been England football fans...
You understand why... Sorry, just have this right? You understand why a load of blokes who are clearly of Middle Eastern heritage are going around hunting Jews, right? It's not because of the football.
I think it's because their country's flag have been burned in their faces.
They might have been there because of the football. Patrick, but you know that they weren't doing that for the football, right?
What I'm saying is, as a football fan, I've been to places like Turkey, places like Italy, where I've observed my own English football fans with me, but they're behaving badly, and the local population, some of the hooligans in the local population, have attacked England football fans indiscriminately, even the ones who aren't doing anything towards them. And I think that's what we've got here. You've got 40,000 Ajax fans in the stadium. You've got about 300 fans chasing...
I don't think they're Ajax fans doing that, mate.
Well, these are Dutch people in the Netherlands.
Are they?
Well,
you don't seem to be speaking Dutch in a lot of these clips.
You can be Dutch and speak a different language. You can be English and speak a different language.
And they're all there with the Palestine flags on. So that's not... I mean, Ajax don't play in the Palestine...
Because they had their flag burned in front of their faces, Patrick. I mean, I've got to say, again...
I'm sorry, I find this absolutely disgusting.
No, Patrick,
The justification, the attempted justification...
We're not justifying it. You've got to put it into context. You can't just show one side of the story.
There is no context whatsoever that can justify an armed group of people going around trying to just find a Jew and throw them in the canal. I'm sorry. I've heard enough.
I think we also do need to...
It is what's happened. You can flipping well see it.
I think we do need to look at some other examples of where this might have happened before. We've seen on the streets of London, I've put footage out of them saying they want to find Jews and they want to spill their blood. I have seen those clips in London, so we can't say it hasn't happened, right? We're going to be fair. Let me finish. Because if we're going to have a balance, because I said when I got on here I want to give some balance to this story because it's really important, that we have seen this happen. So to say that there's people who haven't just jumped into this fight that are really pro-Palestine is unfair to say. Of course, there are... Hang on, just one more thing. That Telegram group that was used to circulate and the taxi drivers then to go around and possibly someone got hit by a car as a result of this is not excusable in any fashion.
I'm not saying
However, I just want to say that it is important that there's some balance here because you are also right to say there's a lot of hooliganism that happens at football games and we can't excuse the antagonising of people that's going
no
to incite
one
that
is
violence.
excusing the horrendous violence that we've seen. I mean, people being effectively run over by these particular people. Again, not excusable.
They normally go around.
But you have to put it in context, Patrick. No,
Reem,
we
I'm
have
sorry,
to.
but you are actually really mugging yourself off here, right, in a big way. Because football hooligans, they'll go around and they'll go, what football shirt are you wearing? They don't say, can I see your passport?
Yeah, it's a big
Why do they want to see your
difference.
passport? They want to see if you were Jewish or not. And that makes it overtly racist.
You've got to put it into context. I mean, you talk about this particular... No, but you've...
I hope if something like this happens to you, I hope someone sits on a TV show one day and goes, well, there was context, Reem. There was context.
But this is about the football game, and I'm not being funny. I've also seen clips of Maccabi fans saying things like, well, there are no schools in Palestine because we've killed all the children. So whatever your perspective is on this, both sides of this particular football game have been saying disgusting things, horrendous things, and all the violence is disgusting. But we have to talk about it within the language that they're using, and also the context that it's a football game.
If only two Maccabi fans attacked a taxi driver, pulled down Palestinian flags and kicked in someone's front door, then the people who are going to seek retribution against those two fans are going to attack all Maccabi fans.
So what about the fact that
is football tribalism.
Earlier in the Netherlands as well, previously, there's been situations at universities where it's kicked right off. What about the disgusting levels that we've seen in loads of different countries around Europe? Was that all football related? Or
No,
do we think...
No,
it wasn't. Because it's almost like we've allowed a massive problem into Europe, isn't it? Full of people who've got really anti-Semitic views and are looking for an excuse to expose.
We've seen in America... their most prestigious college campuses being shut down and the white students stopping Jewish kids from going to classes. That is not Middle Eastern, North African men. So that's anti-Semitism.
That's in America. What I am saying is there are numerous different examples, this being the latest one, of what appears to be groups of Middle Eastern men going around hunting for Jews. And I'm very concerned about that, and I don't think that's progress. And I think that when a load of middle-class, lovey lefties wear the keffiyeh or go out and about and shout pro-Palestine stuff, maybe they should consider that actually just beneath that is a group of people that are very, very willing to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I think there's a really important point here, and I want to go back to context, because, again, the football match is context on one side, and what's historically been happening over the last 18 months is the other half of this context. So we have to we can't just say it is just football hooligans, because we know it's not. We've got evidence to prove the Telegram groups we used to radicalise and bring people out. So we have to look at it in that perspective as well if we're being really fair and balanced. The reality is that even on the streets of London, we've allowed a very small but very vocal, extreme sect of the pro-Palestine groups to shout jihadi slogans, to shout intifada, and they have been allowed to say that the Met Police have said, well, you can say jihad, it's different context. Actually, in most Western countries, there is a context.
Alex. Do we believe in free speech?
Sure, you can believe in free speech, but you can ask yourself, what is the context in which they're saying
That's fine, you can ask that question, but we're not going to ban people from speaking because we believe in free speech,
we do lock people up for... We do lock people up for...
That can mean so many different things. That can mean so many different things.
We have locked people up in this country for inciting violence, and I believe screaming... But you're saying we don't, but we do. And that's the reality. Screaming jihad and intifada. I know you are,
I believe in free speech for even people that I disagree with. I think it's wrong. I disagree with it, but I still believe in freedom of expression, even for opinions I don't like.
Okay,
that's what free speech is.
Yeah? Even if that's jihad.
What do you mean by jihad?
What do you mean by jihad? The thing that people wage when they kill people.
No, that's not what jihad means in all contexts.
Okay, fine. But in that context, though, Reem, interestingly, it was said by a group called Hizb ut-Tahrir, who are now a banned terrorist organisation.
Yes, and that's disgusting, and they're terrorists.
Absolutely. Okay. All right. Well, look, to be honest with you, I am obviously clearly very concerned about what is going on in the streets of Europe, and I think one day, unfortunately, more people will be forced to actually confront that fact, because things will get worse before they get better. But anyway...